Well, we were able to beat the best team in the LCS, which is crazy, and yet we still didn't go 3-0, and I want to take a look at why that may have happened. Either way, I'm excited, so let's talk some TSM. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Rob, if you don't know, and I'm excited to be talking to you about TSM and their LCS team. And you can see below me that we are now 5-4. Specifically, we have 5 of the 8 wins that I think we need to have to make playoffs. Now, this year might be a little bit different because I think some of the teams are playing better, some of them are playing a lot worse. It's been interesting to say the least. We are currently tied for 4th with Golden Guardians, who are on a 5-game winning streak, which includes a win over us, which we'll talk about here shortly. But I would like to remind everybody, if you haven't already, please subscribe, please like this video, because I want to continue to make more TSM content. And I'll be honest, I just enjoy it. I really do, and it means a lot that you guys support me and support the channel, and know that there's even more sports and gaming content coming from Joe, Ben, and Varno, and Brock. They're all doing great things together and throwing it up there, and I hope that you guys are enjoying it. Lastly, I would love to hear your all's thoughts on these games from this super week and where TSM are kind of standing right now in the comments section below. Now let's get into the games. Golden Guardians game, I actually, for the most part, liked our comp, because this is the kind of comp that we have to play. It's front-to-back team fights, which is fine. Everybody's like, well, you need a different style. I'm like, front-to-back team fighting has been a tried and true, variation of League of Legends since forever, it feels like. And I understand that there are some comps that can be a little bit more volatile. There are comps that I think can be better in certain situations, but for a team that doesn't necessarily have to be great, this reminds me of the old TSM, old Team Liquid teams. The only difference being that I think our AD carry isn't at that same level as, Double Lift, generally speaking, right? But I think the concept is there, right? You can see it here. Tanky top laner for solo that can absolutely, be, I think, very influential in fights. Engage jungler with Boogie here on the Wukong. You've got a carry late game scaling type mage in Maple, and a late game carry style AD carry with Neo, and then you have an enchanter support who allows you to, well, I don't know, enchant, right? like to give buffs and everything like that. I think that that's great. The freaking problem still in this game at this point in the week is that on Wednesday we just gave Stixxay our kryptonite, right? They thought, hey, maybe if we take away some of these other supports, it won't matter, right? When they take away the Karma, we took away the Kalista. I would rather face Kalista. I'll be honest with you right now. I'd rather face Varus. I don't want to face Zeri anymore, especially because she can be so influential in fights that the rest of her team, all they have to do is just get people low, and then she comes in, cleans it up, and then gets just super strong because that's just what she does. We learned our lesson, I think, in this game, because this whole game, we either had a lead or were very close. It was perfect. That's what you want. When you have Ornn, when you have Azir, and when you have Sivir, and actually even Lulu, honestly, this is like a perfect team comp for us. Genuinely. Like, we can scale. Neo has plenty of protection for himself, and Boogie is able to get in there and just ult people. He and Solo are always going to be useful, right? And I think that this is the kind of comp that I wanted to see. I was very excited about this comp, especially going into, Gory pulling out the Yone. I'm like, okay, if Yone can maybe get to the back line, but there's plenty of CC and plenty of peel for Neo and for Maple to do their thing. And I was interested to see how the Annie would play out. The Annie was obviously, as you can see in this game, very strong. I think she went 2 for 3 this weekend, or this past week in the LCS. I think we're going to see a lot more of Annie because on this patch that they're playing on, she's extremely strong. So I'd love to see Chime bring her out at some point. Maybe give Neo a Callista, which he's pretty strong at. So I really like the Callista Annie combo. But regardless, right? The problem is that we had like 2 bad fights, and they weren't even terrible fights. But Zeri was the one that got the kills, and she just started running us over. And not just that, but we were out of position a few different times. We didn't start stacking the Drakes in time. And not only that, but Boogie and Solo and Maple's CC was consistently on Licorice's Renekton and Gory, who could much more easily get out by whipping himself back. So, it didn't feel like, I know Stixxay was well protected, but there weren't really creative angles to try to get to him, especially from Boogie in this game. And I think that, if we had focused on the bot lane, tried to stack Drakes earlier, I think, and Boogie actually really needing to be a lot more, I think, aggressive in the early game, which has been a problem for us. But if you would have done that, I think we would have had a better chance. I think there are 3 things. I think taking away the Zeri, stacking dragons, and Boogie, positioning a little bit better to get the CC onto the carry, specifically the one that has really no way out when you're in the middle of a river, right? Because her dash is very short unless if she's going over a wall. But he didn't do that, and that's okay. I think they learned a lot from this loss, because then they went into the FlyQuest game, which was, everybody's like, oh man, it's FlyQuest. This is bad. I don't like this. I didn't like this. This game felt like pretty much an auto loss to me, but I think that we just played it better. I loved what we did. So we took away the Lucian, which I guess we're afraid of, but whatever. We took away the Zeri. We took away the Karma. I still don't think Karma's all that good, but everybody keeps banning it, so I'm clearly wrong on that. Whatever. But you can see, because of the, hubris, maybe, of FlyQuest, we were actually able to get 480 carries, because then in the second round of bans, we took away the Xayah, we took away the Kai'Sa. We started stacking Drakes early. This was another really good team comp. But here are the reasons why I thought this team comp was so good. Solo was on a champion that I think not only plays well into the Scion, but is another champion that he's just a meatball, dude. It doesn't really matter. Like, he's able to get some nice CC in there. And I haven't seen a Cho'Gath in a really long time, but I really like this, right? We see it meatball plus engage, which Boogie on the Vi, they let the Vi go through, which was also a big mistake from them. Not to mention that they also banned 2 other 80 carries in the Caitlyn and Ashe. So they really had to go deep to get that Jinx, who's strong-ish, but not, anything crazy. And, that Vi has the auto lock, unlike the Wukong, which generally has good stuff, but not, his ultimate can still miss on occasion if he's not able to, get the initial invisibility and then to the hit. Then we have Maple on his signature now, very much signature Talia. He's one of the best Talias in the LCS, if not the best Talia in the LCS. You have Neo on a nice on-hit, by the way. Varus, which a lot of people have been like, well, it seems like they've been battling between on-hit and... I can't remember what it's called right now, but blanking. I know the other one, Straighted Dirk and all that stuff, right? Like, that's just not good enough. I think on hit is just so much better. It was clearly in this game. I think if anybody plays Varus differently at this point, I think they're trolling. And then Chime was on his best engage champion support, his Rakan, one of the best Rakans in the LCS. They just took it to them. I think this was a great draft. I think, we had a good plan for them, right? We allowed Spica to get his Maokai, whatever. We know that that's what he does. He's going to pick the same champions over and over. What is our response to it, though? And I think, having the Rakan, the Cho'Gath, and the Vi is a great response. Not only that, but we kind of turned their damage into one, into basically just AD. Not intentionally, but they ended up picking the Jace, which I think was a pretty big mistake. which allowed for Solo to just be a monster. He just wouldn't die, right? Especially later in the game. Sure, he died 5 times in a row, whatever. By the end of the game, he was 5-0-9. After his last death. So, I think that this team is starting to form their identity. I think in this game, they were able to take advantage of, not that I think Vicla's pick would have made that much of a difference, to be completely honest with you, but I do think that, we had a good strategy. Focus dragons, focus the bot lane, and as we can see, we were even going to outscale them. The only thing that could have theoretically outscaled us and been a problem would have been the Jinx, but I think Neo could easily match that, along with Boogie just being able to hit the alt button. It just made her life really hard. And I loved the combos, by the way, too. Last thing on this is I really enjoyed, Solo knocking somebody up, Maple, hitting him back, or, Boogie hitting somebody in, and then Maple bringing him back in over his knockback into the sheets of ice. Same thing with Chime. If Chime, was able to knock somebody up or was able to charm somebody, it was set up perfectly for Maple, and it also allowed Neo to stay far enough back to where, he had a little bit of protection for himself with the Rakan. But it just was, I don't know, this was just a great game. It was a good comp. We were the only team to really make FlyQuest look bad, and this was a horrible game from them. They were really bad in this game overall. Last one here, and again, this episode's going a little bit longer. Super week episodes will go longer. That's just how it is. Last one here. This was just a smashing. Dignitas was horrible. We essentially perfect gamed them. Yes, they got some towers, but whatever. This team just seemingly had no answer for anything that we did. I don't really get what their point, what are they even trying to do? Why is Spawn picking Aphelios here? There were a lot of other 80 carries that were still available. I'm looking right now. There were only 3 80 carries that were banned, and he goes straight to an Aphelios. Listen, man, I know Aphelios is getting played, especially when the pool gets lower, and it's obviously good with the Lulu, but I'm not of the opinion. I even watched us pick frickin' Lucian Nami again, and I'm like, oh my god, we didn't have push. I don't get why everybody's picking this champions. They're combined, they have a 40% win rate or something like that combined. I think Nami specifically has a 33, excuse me, and I think Lucian's is a 40, 45 maybe. So yeah, the Lucian's maybe a little bit better. The Nami's obviously the best to pair with it, but it's just, it doesn't get the push like it used to. I just don't think it's as good as people think it is, but I really liked what I saw out of Solo. He was able to really handle and keep Armut, who's I think been the best player on Dignitas by a pretty wide margin out of the game, while Boogie and Maple were able to go in and kind of do their thing. They showed that you don't need 2 melees to make Sejuani successful. And what I think was most important about this game is we didn't really make any mistakes, right? We just played a clean game. We knew that we were a better team, and we didn't have to worry about it, right? Seriously, look, everything first, Dragon Soul, 2 Barons. Guys, I'm telling you, Dragons are still, I don't understand why more teams play towards Rift Heralds compared to Dragons. I get it. Getting towers is great. It can get 1 lane ahead pretty easily. But Dragons are by far the best way to play the game, especially for the way that we play the game. We don't care about the early game. We're one of the worst early game teams in the LCS. Doesn't really matter. What does matter is the fact that when we have Dragons, even if we lose the early game, we can start stacking them. And guess what? Dragon Soul is always going to be strong. Whether it's Cloud, whether it's Infernal, right? Hextech, right? All these different dragons, doesn't really matter what it is, because they add so much to the game, and the way that we play, it's for the late game. So I personally am of the belief that a couple things need to be still consistent, right? Tank top laner, engage jungler, scaling carries, with Chime kind of just playing whatever's going to help the team best, right? You got to do that. You got to keep banning Zeri, because look at this. Hey, look, we banned Zeri again. Wow, look at that. 2 games in a row we banned Zeri and we win. Shocker. We have only beat Zeri, I think, once all year. And I'm going to talk about that on the next video. But, guys, I think that this team is better than we thought. I think the combination of Solo, Maple, and Chime is one of the oddest and still one of the better working cores in the LCS right now. Boogie has been better than I expected. We had, again, we've talked about this a few times. So I had that expectation video way back at the beginning of the year. I didn't expect much from him. He has exceeded my expectations. The only person who's been a little bit lower than I had hoped for is Neo. He has great games. He has bad games. Generally, it feels like it's very rare right now that either of those matter towards a win or a loss necessarily. And I want to see that change for him. Like, he had two good games in the FlyQuest game and the Dignitas game, but it didn't feel like, maybe more in this Dignitas game for sure than previous games, but it didn't really feel like his impact was being felt. It was more of, he's really good at, I think, when he's positioning correctly, able to deal out some damage, be put in a position to clean up some kills, and get himself, into a solid position. I wish that we would be able to pick a Zeri, because that's kind of perfect, like what I talked about happening with Stixxay, I think would work really well with Neo and allow him to carry, but it doesn't seem like he either wants to play Zeri or is good at Zeri. I mean, historically, he's not been great at Zeri, but, things change. I don't know. Regardless, I'm really happy with where we're at right now. 5 wins, 5-4 through the first half. Let's not forget, we had 5 wins, I believe, all of last split. Now, obviously, they came, or all of, no, we had 6 wins, I think, in the summer, and 5, in the spring, and most of those wins came in, the second half. So I'm hoping that we're not just like a first half team and then we struggle in the second half. Raz and the desk were talking about what team could regress. He specifically said TSM. I can see where he's going with that, but I don't believe that. We'll see. But I have some interesting stats and everything for you guys on the next episode, so be making sure to check out that one. Sorry, this one's coming out a little bit late, but hey, that'll be better for you guys because you guys will get back-to-back episodes. But yeah, with that, I'll catch you on the next one.